What stories from your life do you tell no one because no one would believe you anyway?
I attended Belmont University in Nashville from 1999 to 2002. During my studies, I, like many of my friends, worked for record labels. One buddy worked for a label called Red Hill Records. He was an intern, basically an errand boy. It was a small label, and we were allowed to go to events and meet people in the music industry and artists. They had one singer that we became friends with. Her name was Katie Hudson. She was 17, and she wrote and performed her own songs. We hung out together all the time since we were all the same age and had nothing to do but study and hang around coffee shops. As our friendship developed, my roommate fell hard for her. She never reciprocated. So I asked her what was wrong with him. She replied that she liked me, not him. I wanted to be a good friend, so I had to turn her down because of my friend's feelings. Later, this girl was called Katy Perry. I took revenge on the man who abused my friend, even though she repeatedly asked him to stop. Since then, she has never recovered and even stopped trusting her close friends. She gave me his name, and I tracked him down. I found out where he worked, where he lived, his schedule. Between my shifts, I followed him. I did this for 2 weeks. One night, when he got off work, I was waiting for him. He didn't hear me sneak up behind him, put a cotton swab in his ear, and swatted it with the palm of my hand. You wouldn't believe the blood, the screaming. I stood there and I couldn't move. I just watched him squirm. We were alone. No one could help him or grab me. Finally, I got up the nerve to run as fast as I could. I burned the clothes, gloves, and ski mask I was wearing. I didn't make a sound, so he couldn't recognize my voice. And as much as I wanted to throw out the simple phrase, "Learn to listen," I held back so he couldn't tell the police about it. My friend wasn't questioned, and neither was I. As far as I know, he is completely deaf in his right ear. I have no regrets. I witnessed an incident known as the McMasterville explosion. The paint company also manufactured explosives. Their giant explosives plant was on the same property as the paint plant. One night, it all blew up. I was looking right at the plant when it happened. Thousands of gallons of flammable liquids and other substances went up in the air at the same time. The explosion was later estimated at 1 kiloton. I lived on the side of Mount St. Hilaire, a little over a mile from the plant, and looked down on the site. When you see such an explosion from afar, the ground ripples like water if you throw a rock into the water. I was riding my bicycle at the time of the explosion. The ground shook first, and then the air current knocked me off my bike. The plant is specially sunk into the ground and surrounded by a high trench wall so that in the event of an explosion, the neighboring town of Beloil would not be leveled with the ground. Thus, the explosive force hit the ground, and the factory flew straight up into the air. Tons of debris sprinkled down for miles. No one, as far as I know, was hurt, but many small fires broke out everywhere. My neighbor found a train wheel in his backyard that was red hot. My brother and I made a fake video of the earthquake and convinced several national TV stations of its authenticity. That day, I came home from work and spent time on the computer. I felt a rumbling sound like a dump truck passing nearby, but the rumbling continued for a while and intensified. It wasn't a big deal. Even though I don't live in an area with high seismic activity, it shook pretty hard for this neighborhood, maybe a 6.2. Of course, my brother ran out of his room to ask me if I felt the rumble. In passing, he said he wished he had videotaped it. At the time, my brother was obsessed with YouTube videos. He had his own channel with a small number of subscribers, and he was constantly filming himself or something else. Then I had the brilliant idea to fake an earthquake. We started recording one of his regular videos, and I shook the camera slightly, not really hard, just to be convincing. Then he said something like, "What is that?" grabbed the camera, and ran outside. The shaking of the camera from simply walking was more than enough. We added some earthquake sound effects we found on the internet and posted it on YouTube. That video blew up the web. We refreshed the page, and almost instantly, the number of views reached 330. Then the phone started ringing. The weather station was calling. The CTV channel called. Channels in and out of town were calling. Even the CBC was calling. All of them asked for permission to use the video, to which we enthusiastically agreed. Then the interviews started. My brother chickened out of giving a phone interview to the meteorologists, so I pretended to be them and spoke on his behalf. They made a comment about the duration of the earthquake. On our video, it seemed to last a few seconds longer than they thought it actually was. CTV just showed the video without an interview. CBC had asked to do the interview in person that evening. So, after gathering our courage, my brother and I took the bus downtown. My brother was interviewed by the Contact Mark Kelly program. It was a quick and awkward interview, but it was worth it. We had officially trolled one of the biggest TV news stations in the country. I won several $1 million in the lottery about 15 years ago and kept it a secret. I didn't change my lifestyle much, except that I bought a modest house and a new, used car. I waited several years to quit my job. I haven't told a soul that I won, including my family. The only people who know are my accountant and lawyer. A few people have noticed I have a little more money than usual, but I told them I got a small inheritance. My mom and I moved into a perfectly ordinary, normal house when I was about 15 years old. One day, I pretended to be sick so I wouldn't have to go to school, so I stayed home. I was playing on the computer when I heard our garage door open. I got scared and went into the hallway to get my cell phone. I saw the door to the hallway that connects to the garage open. I panicked and yelled, "Get out!" and saw two young guys slam the door shut and run out. I cried and called my mom, who told me to wait for her at the neighbor's house while she drove home from work. When she got home, she talked to our neighbor for a while. The neighbor ended up telling us that it was probably a guy who lived in the house before us. Allegedly, he sometimes goes door to door breaking in, eating other people's food, watching TV and stuff like that. And for some reason, they were all okay with it, except us. A week later, I was lying in bed and woke up in the middle of the night for no reason. I felt like something or someone was watching me. I was scared out of my mind. That night, I went to my mom's room and slept in her bed. I slept in my mom's bed for about a week because I was now very afraid of the dark. One night, I finally got up the courage to go to bed in my room, but I could hardly sleep. I was restless and anxious and afraid. I managed to fall asleep briefly, but then I woke up again. I looked out the window and I could have sworn I saw a figure standing there. Naturally, I didn't do shit. I just ran to my mom. One night, when I went back to my mom's bed, I woke up to the growling of my dog, who was sleeping at our feet. Our dog is an old golden retriever, and she has never growled or barked at anyone. She is very good-natured and completely calm. She has no problem with strangers. Even if someone knocks on the door and comes in, she doesn't care. So I wake up, not knowing what's going on, confused and half asleep. I hear the dog growling and I ask her, "What's wrong?" I look up from the bed and, damn it, I see a man standing in the doorway. With a knife, I screamed like a banshee, and the dog started barking at that moment. My mom woke up and saw a man, too. He ran down the hall and out the back door. I was choking back tears. The dog was barking at the top of his voice, and my mom was frantically trying to call the police. An hour later, they finally arrived, and sure enough, the dude was gone. Morning comes. We go outside and see that the lock on the back gate has been cut off, and the door leading into the house has been broken into. The cops arrive, check for fingerprints, and leave their shit everywhere. But in the end, they never found anyone. We moved out that same day and went to live with my grandparents while we looked for a new house. Almost no one in the family believed us or thought we just made the whole thing up to get attention. A few weeks later, we got a call from the police saying that they had found out whose fingerprints were in our house. They belonged to a teenager who was just arrested for breaking into another house. This is the same guy who has been breaking into all the houses in the neighborhood and used to live in the house where we lived. My mom was talking to the cops and neighbors, and all of a sudden someone completely randomly says, "I know him, that's Milat's nephew." Wait, did they just say Milat? Yes, almost any Australian knows that last name. Ivan Milat, serial killer. He's been breaking into people's homes while they were asleep. Anyway, we moved into a new house and didn't remember it. Until last year, we saw on the news that Milat's nephew got a 43-year prison sentence. He and his friend killed another man in the same fucking place where his uncle disposed of the bodies. Holy shit. Anyway, the guy who broke into our house watched me while I slept and stood in our bedroom doorway with a knife, killed another man a few years later. My mom and I nearly collapsed when we heard about it. No one believes us. It pisses me off, but it really happened.